I came across this video that someone else made in reference to Gino Jennings, a pastor. And this particular pastor was saying that a woman who comes to church dressed seductively, who's wearing jewelry, who's wearing makeup, red lipstick, long fingernail, red fingernail polish. He was basically saying that they are whores and they should not come to church like that because they are distracting. And so you got some people that agree with what he's saying, and then some people that don't agree with what he's saying. The problem that I have with what he's saying is basically how he said it. If you're in a position, especially as a pastor, and you're trying to teach, because part of being in that position is not only to educate a person about exactly what the Bible is saying and encouraging them to read the Bible for themselves and making sure that you're leading them to God and educating them that Jesus is the only way. You're also supposed to talk to them in the way that you're teaching them so they can understand why they should or shouldn't do certain things. I did another video about that as far as the word rebuke and what a rebuke means. So there's a way to rebuke a person that you're not causing them to be embarrassed, or you're not putting them in a position of defense. Because I spoke about my life in the past, and if I would have ran into someone like him and he would have been like, oh, the way you're dressed, the way you act or whatever, you're a whore, I would have rejected everything he had to say, because to me, he's been insulting, and that would have just made me not want to listen to what he said. Even if what he was saying may have been right, it's just the way he's presenting that information. And so I felt that he would have done more good than bad by saying, based on the Bible, based on why you're coming to church, this is how you should dress, or this is how you shouldn't dress. Because if you kind of like step back, they always say it's not what you say, but how you say it. And as a representative of God, being in his position, he should never want to push anyone away or alienate a person or stop a person from wanting to hear what he has to say if he's speaking on God's behalf, if he's delivering the message based on the message that's in the Bible. So that's the problem I have had with what he said as, being insulting, because you're supposed to speak to a person, you're supposed to treat a person in the way that you would like them to treat you, in the way that you would like them to speak to you. You're supposed to do it in a respectable way. And I feel that when it comes to church, a lot of times there is no church mother or no church father to speak to the younger people, because first of all, church is supposed to start in the home. And we already know that's not everyone's case. Church don't start in the home for everyone. But church initially is supposed to start in the home. When you're raising your kids, they're young, and you're supposed to be educating them about the Bible. So when they are old enough and they are going to church on their own, they're not going to turn away from the teaching of the Bible, because they understand the reason I'm doing this or the reason I'm dressing this way is because it's biblical. In 1 Peter 3 through 4 and 1 Timothy 2, 9 through 10, it speaks about modesty. It speaks about a woman should adorn themselves in respectable apparel with modesty and self-control. It goes on to say more, but it's basically saying about being modest. It's, just as a woman, have modesty about yourself. Because being a Christian is not something you turn on and turn off. Being a Christian is supposed to be who you are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year, no matter who you're around. You don't just be a Christian because you're around Christian people, and then when you're around the worldly people, now your persona change. Now how you act change. Now how you talk change. How you carry yourself, how you represent yourself change. No matter where you go, you're supposed to always be representing God. You're supposed to always be carrying yourself in that way, that you are a representation of the kingdom of God. And when it comes to the way you dress in church, I don't think it's just about a person coming, you know, of course not, you're not supposed to come with your boobs hanging out, with your butt hanging out, you know, something so short that if you bend over, all your goodies are showing. That is not how you're supposed to come to church. But you're not supposed to be a distraction in church. So you can be fully dressed and still be a distraction. With the jewelry, some people wear a lot of jewelry to the point where they move their arm, you can hear the bracelet clanking together. When they get up, you can hear, you know, they might have on a lot of necklace or whatever. So when you go to church, regardless of how you're dressing, you're supposed to be covered up and you're not supposed to be a distraction. Because if you think about it, what is your reason for going to church? Are you going to church to put on a show? Are you going to church so you can put on your best dress? And because a lot of times women dress up for other women. They don't dress up for men. They dress up for other women because they want to invoke envy, jealousy, or I am a better dresser than you, or look at me, you know, I really put myself together. But it's not for God, because God don't look at your outward opinion. Your outward appearance. He look at your heart. So when you're standing in that mirror and you're on your way to church, what thoughts are going through your mind when you see what you have on? Are you putting on clothes that you're saying, I'm going to put this on to go to church because I want to be one with God? Because in the Bible, you hear Jesus said that if 2 or 3 come together, there I am. So if you're going to church, you're going to be in the presence of Jesus. You're going to church to be in the presence of God. It's not just to hear the word from the preacher, but you want to invoke and feel that Spirit of God in you. You want to come out with a better understanding, more motivated to do whatever it is you need to do. You want to go to church and get breakthroughs. You don't want to go to church and be all hyped while you're in church, then you walk out and you feel in the same way because you missed the message, because you was looking at this person, or you get distracted by this person, or you was trying to figure out that person over there is so fine, you want to know if they're in a relationship or not. So if you're too busy looking at everything around you instead of being in the moment with God, then that is a distraction. If what a person is wearing, then it can be a distraction. You could come into church covered up from head to toe, but you could be real colorful. You could have this big hat on that's a distraction. The person can't even see the people on stage because they're trying to look around your hat. Everything like that. And they also address men. Because like I said, a lot of times women dress to impress other women. And then with men, they come dressed to show status. I'm dressed like this because I have money. I'm dressed like this because I'm important. And so in, I think it's James 2:2-5, where he's saying, like, if a man come to church and he has a gold ring and he has fine clothes, and then there's someone else that comes to church and they kind of shabbily dressed, don't pay attention to the man that's dressed nice and say, okay, you sit up here, you're giving him a prestige seat because of how he dressed, and then the man that's dressed shabbily, you're like, go stand over there. You're not supposed to do that. Everyone is equal in the eyes of God. When you walk in that church, you don't have a title. When you walk in that church, your money don't make a difference. Your education don't make a difference. Who your physical mother and father is don't make a difference, because you're all a child of God. We're all God's children. So when you walk into church, there's no one above you or below you. You're all equals in the eyes of God, and you should all be treated the same. And so when you go there, that's where modesty come in, because you don't want to cause a fellow brother or sister to fall because of how you dress. You don't want them to go back into sin or have sinful thoughts while they're in church, while they're supposed to be getting in a relationship with God. That's where modesty come in. Some people will cover up more going to work than they will going to church. And that shouldn't be like that. You should always want to respect your Father. You should always want to respect God. And you should always want to go in the presence of God, humbling yourself and dress in a respectful way for God. And then that should carry out to church. I would never say a person is a whore because they're wearing makeup or they're wearing jewelry or because of how they're dressed. I would say that person has not been rebuked. That person doesn't know or maybe that person don't care, and that person need prayer more than anything, more than condemnation. They need prayer. But like I said, it's about how you treat people, how you talk to them, whether you should get them to understand why it's important that when you come to church, it's not about showing off your Sunday best. It's about coming, fellowshipping with your fellow brothers and sisters. It's about being in the presence of God. It's about Him speaking to your spirit, speaking to the spirit that's in you, so you can relate. You can get an understanding of things that you may have been praying for, that you're looking for an answer. Maybe your breakthrough will come through at that moment if you're able to connect with other people in the spirit and have the Spirit of God in your presence. But if you're so busy dressing up to impress someone else, or dressing up to look better than the next person, or dressing up because you want everybody's eyes on you, then you're being a distraction to the kingdom. And so that's something that you need to internalize and think about. When I dress up and go to church, why am I putting this on? Is this something that I would, if God was physically standing in front of me, this is how I want to show up in front of Him? Will I be okay standing in front of Him with this on? And do I feel like I'm a distraction? Do I need to tone my makeup down? Maybe I got on too much makeup, because I don't wear makeup. But I know I've seen some videos where women talking about they're doing the no makeup. They're putting on makeup, but they're putting it on in a way that look like they don't have on makeup. So, I feel there are things that you can do where you can calm the way you look down and not be a distraction to your fellow brothers and sisters in Christ. And like I said, I would never sit and call a person a whore because of how they're dressing or how they're behaving. I just feel that that was an opportunity for him as a pastor to relay that message in a better way. And then within each individual church, they should have, quote unquote, a dress code, and then that should be relayed to the congregation. But a lot of times I know that's not done because they don't want to hurt people's feelings. They don't want to turn people away. Because in 1 Samuel 16 through 7, 1 Samuel 16 verse 7, God is speaking to Samuel, and he's basically saying, I think he's talking about Saul, that he doesn't look at a person's outward opinion, he looks at a person's heart. So when you're coming to church, are you coming to church with an open heart for God, with a love for God, or are you coming to church for people, to get people's approval, to get the look and respect and the honor from people? Because if that's what you're looking for, that's what you're going to get, and God's going to be like, I never knew you, because you never formed a relationship with Him. You formed a relationship with the people in the church, but you forgot all about Him. So that's all I wanted to say. Peace. Oh, and also I will leave the different verses and the link to that particular video if you want to watch it. Peace.